Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Shavua Tov. Thank you to Raya and Mordechai. This Parsha is Parsha Eikev, a very special Parsha and also a very special time. We are right after Tisha B'Av. We are after the time that we're supposed to be sad, and now Hashem comforts us. These next 7 weeks until Rosh Hashanah, we are going to be reading 7 haftarot that are connected to nechama, to comfort. And this is basically the comfort of Hashem. This is the way that Hashem is relating to us, that we should not feel that there is no hope at all, but the destruction was in order to rebuild a new temple, a bigger temple, and Bezrat Hashem, an ultimate temple. So this is the timeline that we are now in. Parsha Eikev is a very interesting Parsha. We actually, the last Parsha, that was already the first of the Parshas where Hashem is comforting us. We read it in the Haftarah, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Twice, Nachamu, Nachamu, Hashem comforts us in a double portion. So let's start with our Parsha. Our Parsha is about the beginning, Parsha Eikev Tishmun. If you, Yisroel, will actually listen and keep the Torah and mitzvot, Hashem will keep his promise, his oath. Parsha Eikev Tishmun, ushmartem v'asisem oisam. You'll keep the mitzvot. Hashem tells us that he will keep the Shamar Hashem Elokecha lecha es habris v'es hachesed, the oath that he made with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And here's an interesting question. If this is an oath, if this is a special bris where we connect to Hashem without limitations, and Hashem connects with us in the same way, in the same manner, without no limitations and without no conditions, that is the purpose of an oath, right? That is the purpose of a connection between two people who love each other, and they say, you know what, our fates are connected together. Wherever I will go, you will go as well. And that is our connection to Hashem because of the special oath he gave Avraham many, many years ago. Bris ben Abasarim. Avraham basically received from Hashem a special guarantee that Hashem is going to take care of Am Yisrael no matter what. How could it be that our Parsha says, you know what, if you listen to me, I will keep the oath? What kind of oath is that? If Hashem actually, and he did, connect to Am Yisrael in an ultimate way because of this bris, because of this oath, the special oath that Avraham gave and also Hashem gave. So why is he starting to make conditions? And he says, if you will listen to the Torah and mitzvahs, you know what? I will also keep something that I promised. If you promised it, and you promised it with no conditions, it means you've got to take care of Am Yisrael no matter what, even if they don't listen and don't keep the Torah and the mitzvahs. So this is the basic fundamental question in our Parsha, because that's the beginning of the Parsha. Now, there's also 2 interesting explanations to the word Eikev. The simple way to understand, Pshuto Shel Mikra, is V'haya Eikev Tishmun, because you would listen to me, therefore I will keep my oath. That is the basic understanding. But Eikev means something else. Eikev is the ankle. The Akev is the last part of the human body, the ankle. What does that represent? What is that trying to tell us? Hashem is telling us a very important lesson. Hashem is telling us, you know what? If you keep the ankle of the mitzvot, which means all these mitzvot that people sometimes don't care about, they don't notice, it's something very small, but if you make sure to keep even those mitzvot, the ankle mitzvot, I will keep my oath. That's one way to understand the word Eikev, ankle. The other way to understand the word Eikev is the times. There's a time that's called Ikvasa de Mashiach. Right before Mashiach comes, it's considered the ankle of generations. It's a very low generation. And as we can see, we are getting closer and closer to Mashiach, just noticing the generation. We aren't on the same level as our parents, their parents, and so on. So Hashem is telling us, if you will keep the mitzvot during the period, the time of Ikvasa de Mashiach, the ankle of generations, the last generation before Mashiach will come, I will keep my oath. So these are two interesting explanations, two interesting ideas. And here we have to understand what is so special, what is so unique about our generation. Why does our generation stand out, even though we have all these minuses that we could see around us? And sometimes, well, it's easy to say that our generation isn't worthy of the coming of Mashiach, but nevertheless, we know that we are the ones to greet him. We are the ones to greet Mashiach. Our generation is the last generation before Mashiach will come. And we've got to understand what is this chut over there. How could that be? So sometimes Chazal give us an example, and that's one explanation, that the idea is, in the words of Chazal, is that there's such an idea called nanas al gabei anak, which means a midget on top of a giant. We are basically on giant's shoulders. We are about to break through the wall. Giants before us weren't able to do this. They weren't able to actually overcome this wall. But nevertheless, although we are small people, we are on their shoulders, and with their zechut, we are able to actually overcome this wall. Sometimes the giant can't do it because he's lacking those 10 centimeters from the edge of his fingers till the wall, till the top of the wall. He can't do it. He can't solve the problem. And that small person that climbs onto his shoulders, he is the one that adds those 10 centimeters, but those 10 centimeters are the centimeters that bring Mashiach. So that is one explanation how our generation is worthy to bring Mashiach. But according to this explanation, there's nothing unique, nothing special about our generation. We are the smallest of all generations. We're gonna talk about the Rebbe's explanation that the Rebbe brings to our generation, to see the view that the Rebbe had on each and every one of us, the trust that he had in us, and the powers that he sees in each and every one of us, even though we are Ikvasa de Mashiach, the ankle of generations, the last generation, the lowest generation. there's something very special about our generation. There's a story about Amalek, right? Amalek, we know, they were terrible to Am Yisrael throughout the generations. From the time that Am Yisrael left Egypt, after all the miracles that we saw that Hashem did for us, they were the first ones to start. They were the first ones, Amalek, to cause trouble. Amalek started fighting Am Yisrael right after they came out of Egypt. The nations were all terrified. They were all scared. They all knew that this is the chosen nation, and Hashem wants them to go into Eretz Yisrael. They left Egypt, the place that was so, it was basically a prison, a jail. No one could leave Egypt, but they were able to leave Egypt because of the miracles of Hashem. They went through the Red Sea. They crossed the Red Sea in a great miracle. They received the Torah, but Amalek interfered. So there's an interesting mashal that that Chazal bring to this Amalek, and they say Am Yisrael was basically like a hot bath of water, of water that was so hot everyone was scared to go into it. And Amalek was the first one to jump into it. And although Amalek was burnt as a result, but he said, you know what, it's worth it, because now no one will be scared, right? After someone jumps into the hot bath, it cools off. So that was basically what Amalek wanted to do. They sacrificed themselves in order, and the only purpose was that Am Yisrael should be vulnerable, that other nations should see that, yes, you can actually fight against the Jews. So that's an interesting mashal about Amalek. But why did I mention it? Because the idea of sometimes when we have a boiling hot bath, we always test it with our ankle. The ankle is the part that has the least chayut, which means the least energy of the body is in the ankle. And that's why the ankle isn't as delicate as the head or as any other part of the body. Then when you want to test boiling hot water, you would do it with your ankle because it's least, the chance of it burning or any serious damage happening to it is very low. So here is a hint to the benefits in our generation, to the special power that our generation has. Our generation is like that ankle that has the least of energy from the entire body. But on the other hand, our generation has this special power to go into boiling hot water. To test the water, not only to test it, but actually to cool it down. This is the hint to our generation. In order to understand this a bit better, let's talk about previous generations. Let's take the time of the first temple. The time of the first temple is expressed in Chazal's quote, Keshem Sheba. 3 times a year, Am Yisrael used to travel to Jerusalem, right close to where we are here at Chabad of Rechavia. And Am Yisrael traveled to Jerusalem and spent there the holidays. Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos. There's a very interesting quote of Chazal. Keshem Sheba Leirois, Kachba Lirois. In the same way that a person entered Jerusalem, came to Beis Hamikdash to show himself, like the Torah commands us, that we've got to appear there, in the exact same way, he also saw something. Not only did he come to be seen, he also saw. What did he see? He saw godliness. He saw Hashem, in other words. Where did he see Hashem? There were 10 special miracles that constantly happened in Beis Hamikdash all the time. And the people that used to enter Jerusalem, that used to enter Beis Hamikdash, they used to see these miracles. And these miracles showed them that Hashem is the one that controls the world. And by the way, this is one of the reasons that Hashem wanted us to come 3 times a year. 3 times a year, we've got to have these powers, this strength, these special koichos that Hashem gives us in order to go back home and keep the connection to Hashem, reflect this connection to the people around us, to our families, to our friends, to our neighbors. This was the purpose of going to Beis Hamikdash. A, to show yourself. B, to see Hashem's show. That is the idea behind going to the temple. And imagine that generation. Imagine that generation of the first temple specifically. Even the second temple, although there were quite a few things missing, such as the golden ark, such as the Choshen, right? The Kohen Gadol did not have, the Urim B'Tumim didn't give answers anymore. So, nevertheless, they had also their challenges. But they had this great advantage of Hashem revealing himself in such a way that allowed them to connect to him and to actually witness him. This is something that we can maybe understand Hashem. And that is our goal, hopefully, to understand the existence of Hashem. And it should be engraved in our minds. We should think about it all the time. We should daven with it, pray with it. But they were actually able to see it, and nothing is compared to witnessing. Right? We believe a witness. That is the whole din. Al pi shnai meidim. All goes according to the witness. But here is what's special about our generation. Our generation, compared to that generation, although we cannot witness anything, but the fact that we do not witness, and even though we do not witness, we still connect to Hashem, that is our advantage. Because after all, Hashem is like a king, and we are his slaves. We are his slaves in the way that we have to be bebitul. Bitul means that we don't feel any existence. In the times of the first temple, although they witnessed all of these great things, but they still, it was part of their metzius, which means it was part of their existence. The people that were there, this wasn't something that they had to keep Torah v'mitzvahs in a way of a struggle, in a way where they didn't relate to it. No, it connects to them perfectly. There weren't struggles like we have. They had different kind of struggles. In Avodah Zarah, for example, they had their own struggles, but keeping basic Torah v'mitzvahs for them connected perfectly to their existence. Why? Because they saw it. In our generation, we are so great because we keep Torah v'mitzvahs even though we don't see it, even though it does not relate to our existence, even though for us it would be much more easy, we would be much more happy going and eating a cheeseburger. But nevertheless, we keep Torah v'mitzvahs because of our bittul. So in other words, the previous generations, they had the quantity, but we have the quality. They have the quantity because they saw much more. They felt much more. They were connected much more. But it wasn't quality. It wasn't pure connection to Hashem. It was their existence connecting to Hashem, and they felt good with it. It's not a problem. It's great. But we have an advantage that quality-wise, looking at our existence that does not connect to Hashem's existence, to what Hashem wants with us, we have struggles. We don't like doing Torah mitzvahs. Something, maybe some of us do. Maybe some of us do have this special connection. But in our generation, a lot of the people have to struggle to keep Torah mitzvahs. For sure, we cannot compare it to previous generations. So quality-wise, we are doing much better. Because the ultimate goal of our Torah mitzvahs is bittul, is basically to be an unexisting person, not to have our existence emphasized, not to be, as we call it in the words of Hasidus, not to be a metzius. And we do it in the best way. We do it in the best way because we don't feel anything. And nevertheless, we still keep Torah mitzvahs. So that is a bit about the advantage in our generation, and that is why we are the ones that could bring Mashiach. More than any other generation, our generation has this quality sense of bittul that we are the ones that could actually bring Mashiach down. Because the whole idea of Mashiach is showing how Hashem is truly our existence, but in a way that we don't have an existence. And that could happen due to our Torah of the mitzvahs that we keep. Let's go back to the first question that we asked at the beginning about our Parsha. V'haya Eikev Tishmeun. Hashem tells us, you know what? If you will listen to me, I will keep my oath to Avraham Avinu. If you won't listen to me, and the question is why? The whole purpose of an oath, the whole purpose of a shvur, the whole purpose of a bris is that it's an ultimate connection, that there's no conditions and we don't break that oath. No matter what, we keep the oath, Hashem keeps his oath. So why does Hashem tell us, you know what, if you'll keep it, I'll keep it too? It's an amazing answer. What the Rebbe teaches us is that Hashem is very, very kind towards us. What is the greatest way of giving charity, of giving tzedakah? The Rambam mentions quite a few levels of giving tzedakah. One of them is giving it directly to the person. He knows who you are, you know who he is, and that's great. That's pure charity, a pure tzedakah, but he knows who you are, you know who he is. There's a slight amount of embarrassment involved here, and that's why there's a higher level. The higher level is when you don't know who he is, and he knows who you are. So you don't know who you're giving to. Then there's a higher level where both of you don't know of each other, like many Tanoim, many tzaddikim used to give tzedakah in such a way where no one knew who they're giving to, and in a way that where no one will feel, the person that's receiving shouldn't feel embarrassed about it, and the person that's giving shouldn't feel too great about it, and no, you know what, I'm supporting this person, I'm supporting that person. That was a sense of the tzaddikim that did it in that way. That was part of them being humble, part of them acknowledging that them supporting the poor is part of the will of Hashem without their existence. Then there's a higher level. The highest level is not giving charity, but lending money to the other. Lending money to the other is a way to keep him on his feet. Instead of needing to support him after he falls down, what you're basically doing is causing him not to fall, keeping him on his feet. You're lending him money. He'll be able to use this money. He'll be able to make a living and to return return the loan back, and also he'll be on his feet. What a great way. Hashem is kind to us in the exact same way. Hashem tells us, you know what, I could give you this, all these brachas, all these blessings that I promised Abraham, just because of the oath. I could and I will. But then you'll feel that you're receiving everything for free. And I don't want to give it to you for free because you'll feel embarrassed. I want you to work for it. And if you will work for it, you'll actually feel that you deserve it. And then you'll receive the highest quantities of blessings from me because of even your small deed. Which means it's like someone that says, you know what, I will, you do for me the small work and I'll pay you a fortune. So on the one hand, the person feels great about the fact that he is working to get the money and he needs to work for it. But on the other hand, the amount that he's receiving is so much that it's not really compared to the value of the work. It is actually much greater, much higher, because that the person giving is actually giving him from his vessels. This reminds me of a story about there was once a kid that he went to buy things for his mother at the grocery. And he had money specifically for the fruit and the vegetables that were needed, a bit of bread, a bit of milk, a bit of cheese. He goes and he has the parcels, he pays for the money. And then the worker there, the owner of the shop, tells him, yeah, take a few candies. There was a jar full of candies. And the kid says, no, you know what, I'm fine, thank you very much, I appreciate it, but I don't want. So he says, no, come take. And he says, no, you know what, I'm holding these parcels, I can't take. So the owner of the store took it with his hands and he filled a nice amount, put it in the kid's bag, sent him home. And the kid comes home and the mother asks him, well, where did you get this from? Did you buy it? I didn't give you money for candy. The kid says, no, the owner gave it to me. And he tells a story. And the mother said, well, why did you not take it with your hands? So he showed his mother the hands and he said, look at these small hands. I preferred to receive it from his hands, from the owner's hands, who has much bigger hands. That's the blessing that we receive from Hashem. We do our small deeds. Sometimes it can be small in quantity, but great quality. Hashem gives us from his blessing in a way that we feel that we actually are worthy of receiving it and we deserve it. And that is the best way to receive something. Thank you very much for taking part in the shiur, and I'm looking forward, Bezrat Hashem, seeing you next week on Sunday at 9:15. Shavua Tov.